right. Okey dokey. All right, everybody ready to go? All right, Peter, let's go live. Let's dance.
Nope. Is it on? Yep.
Hello, everybody. Happy February the 4th. It's 7 o'clock. We are in council chambers. We have quorum. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Lou? And thank you. And any changes? I have one. Anybody else? Peter? Oh, yes.
I would like to move an item from correspondence to the agenda under new business. It is R4.
I'm going to ask you not to do that because I'm going to put R4 on the agenda as the resident correspondence to carry forward to the next meeting.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Which actually we can consider that, Carol, if there's no other changes. Councillor Abbott, any other changes? Good, then, yes?
My only comment is there's a couple of on-table items. One's referred to in the agenda, and that's regarding the Kelvingrove wastewater treatment plant, so that'll be on-table report. And then there's, the CFO has a couple of on-tables with respect to the preliminary budget.
Thank you.
Which I'll pass around when the time comes.
Thank you very much. So again, just on clarity, so especially for those in the gallery, so that's item R4, which is the residents' correspondence. And we are going to move that, take it off today's agenda and move it forward to the next meeting. Any other discussion on the agenda? Any other changes? All in favor? Unanimous, done. Public participation, and Carol, you have the list. Mr. Schwartz, you're up first.
Hi.
Your 2 minutes of fame starts now.
Sure. It's related to the tree that is in Timbertop Drive that has been requested to be cut down. And we've been taking care of all those trees for the last 11 years. We take care of that part of the street. We've done the riverbed, everything else paid out of our pocket, and we just wanted to keep doing the same thing that we've been doing. There was a problem with the electric lines. Basically, it was dangerous because the tree was touching them, so as soon as Nye told me, we did that part. And we were ready to do the trimming, but apparently it's not the normal policy anymore, so we just wanted to keep it as it is, because otherwise it's going to be like a hole in the middle of the street. There will be nothing. I don't know, do you have any questions or anything that I can answer?
I think this is an older Public Works Manager. Just to confirm, this is an older application, and this is the final throes of the approval?
Yeah, Mr. Schwartz is in the process of obtaining resident feedback in the area.
Yeah, I already gave all the letters for
Okay.
them to reply.
Sorry, did he put in an application?
He did.
No, actually,
Today?
my fault. I did the letters and I have not put the application in. I'll put it tomorrow, but I completely. But I haven't initiated the process. I just haven't handed in my part of it.
All right, Mr. Schwartz, I suggest you get your application in tomorrow.
Yeah, I will get it tomorrow.
Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing the application. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy, you're next up.
Actually, I thought maybe Charlie should speak first. The real reason I'm here is because of her appeal.
Just in terms of, you may not have recognized the number in the correspondence. Charlie's email that came in requesting consideration of an appeal has been put forward to the next meeting. She can speak if you like, or save it until then.
No, but we are, well, I don't know how this, I already won the.
You get your 2 minutes up at the front, or you sit down and.
Well, whatever, I'll just talk again.
Okay.
You know, anyway, I don't know why I'm here, but I guess I know why, actually, but council made a decision in the last meeting. You didn't approve for it, but I had a 3-to-1 vote. This is the High Court of Lions Bay, council, mayor. I had 3 votes, and I gave up 1 foot of the hedge in question, hedged 4 trees, right? Hydro, who is beyond arbitrous, they do not like topping anything. They do hundreds of trees a day, as you know, all over Vancouver, as well as Lions Bay, for their lines. They don't do anything to be evasive, it's peaked out, and I'm gonna lose my view. It's already gonna do that, to see Cheryl's house. I gave up a foot, council voted 3-1. Norm is not here, obviously, and the girl, council member, female, is not here either. So this is a little bit not going my way as far as them being here to say, yes, I uphold my vote. But this is the High Court. I don't know why there's appeal after, that I will appeal, I'll appeal. This can't go on here. I mean, this is just, it's done. And it's been signed off, as I know, by mayor. The decision made 2 weeks ago, and I'm still gonna lose my view of anything, and I'm happy with the decision that I gave up 1 foot. It's low enough already, and I have, everybody's seen it and knows it, and anyway, I appreciate you listening to me again, but.
Thank you very much.
So thank you.
Thank you. Council, I presume no questions? No? Okay. Tina?
Yep. Hi, my name is Tina Schneider, and I wish also to express my opinion that I concur with what the council approved on January the 14th meeting regarding the tree trimming at 385 Ocean View Road. I was requested to view it and give my opinion to you guys. It was decided at that meeting that the cedars adjacent to Mr. Kennedy's property should be trimmed 12 inches as they've been sculpted for years from BC Hydro. Reducing it by another 5 foot below the sculptured level would be a considerable invasion to Mr. Kennedy's privacy, as there is no longer the thicket of the cedars that block the direct view. It would also enable him to see better into the houses across the street at 385 and 395 Ocean View Road. Of course, that would be in reciprocal. Also, the residents would also have a better view of Mr. Kennedy in return, and his coming and going. So I wish you not to readdress or amend your decision for the future regarding this, unless it's been addressed in 3 years' time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
Hi, my name is Jan Schneider. I am here with respect to the aforementioned 2 individuals, the 385 Ocean View tree trimming application. It's my understanding that most procedures are that if you fail to show at a hearing, you basically concede to the outcome of the hearing. And it is my understanding that they have made a decision based partly because she failed to show, and it's because one fails to show, one concedes. So I'm a little confused. If you concede by virtue of no showing, how could you appeal your conceding? And I'm a little confused with that. Anyway, basically it's poor precedence to change your mind and appeal just because you didn't care enough to come down the first time. Had you come down the first time, then that would be a different issue, but you didn't show. So that's my opinion. So basically status quo on the council's decision with respect to 385 Ocean View.
Thank you very much. I presume no questions, just a second. Mr. Robbins?
Hello, my name is John Robbins. I live at 17 Brunswick Beach. I've been a resident of Lions Bay for almost 30 years. A good part of it before Brunswick was incorporated into the village. And I realize I only have 2 minutes. I only found out about the issue of Lions Bay undertaking to, I guess it's potentially sell some of the land, specifically the green space beside our house. And I don't know if that's just in the thought process stage or not, but I can certainly say that, you know, when we bought our place there, it was always on the understanding that that was a green space. It was never, in the almost 30 years that we've been here, ever been discussed that it was actually a lot. I only found out about it on the weekend. I didn't realize that you had to submit a request to speak longer, so I will probably do that in advance of the next meeting. But I guess my question to council is, what are the intentions of council vis-a-vis this property beside our place at 17 Brunswick? I think it sets a dangerous precedent that we're starting to envision selling off the green spaces around the village. That lot is completely covered in old growth timber. Obviously, our decision to purchase was based on being next to green space. So I guess my question is, what is the time frame with the village's process? There's been no consultation. I only found out on the weekend about this. Is there going to be a public hearing? I would imagine it has to be rezoned. I'd like to know the process, and then I'll come back next month with a much longer list.
Good, thank you very much. Let me just do part of this then. You're right, the 10-minute delegation piece. It's a formal process. You submit the stuff and have it happen at a time of your convenience sometime in the future. So that's your first question. And on the second, we've had sold 2 lots in the lot. Well, we've sold 1 lot, and we have another one that's listed, which were in both kind of either as easements or road ends, whatever the technical term is. And I believe the Brunswick piece falls into this, as does another one on Ocean View and Highview. So at this point, what we've disclosed, which is what I wrote about in my mayor's article a week and a half ago, I guess, is that we are having both of the properties surveyed and appraised. And at that point, it'll come back to council for consideration of either selling it, listing it, or something else. So you know what we know at this point.
What about all the other, there's many other similar properties along Lions Bay Avenue, for instance. Are all those going to be sold? Is that the intention of?
I would, for me, those aren't on my radar at this point. And CAO DeJong, do you have can you briefly comment on the village's view on what our own road ends are and about these Lions Bay ones, which I didn't know about?
No, there's no available road ends on Lions Bay Avenue that could be closed and in order to create a lot. The easements that are between 140 and 150 and 200 and 210 are just narrow pathways. Could not create a lot out of that. The easement that Mayor McLaughlin spoke of with respect to Ocean View and Highview is up here at the T intersection of Ocean View and Highview. It's an excess piece of land that belongs to the municipality as essentially excess highway that can be closed under the local government act and the community charter. The piece that Mr. Robbins is referring to is this piece here, part of the esplanade in between his lot and 18 Brunswick Beach Road. And so instructions from council to staff are to survey those 2 pieces of land that have the potential for road closure and creating a lot, and to come back with information pertaining to survey and appraisal. And in terms of rezoning, they don't need to be rezoned. Our zoning bylaw provides that road closures which create lots in this manner, automatically those lots are zoned RS1. So there's no anticipation that the one that Mr. Robbins was speaking about would be anything other than RS1. There is some potential, depending on the appraisal, to consider alternative forms of housing at Ocean View and Highview. Possibility, because of the size and shape of that lot, there's a possibility to have a triplex, for example. So those kinds of ideas will be explored in respect of that particular piece of land. But at the moment, that's pretty much the process, and it's going to take us a while to get there. Yeah, that's about it at the moment.
And I think, again, as, thank you, CAO, you know what we know. Okay? And I think we've hit our 10 minutes, but I think there's one more speaker, which I put on the list. So Charlie, you've got 2 minutes.
Apologies for my delay.
Thank you.
This won't take 2 minutes actually, this just take 30 seconds. I just want to clarify a few points that were brought up earlier. The Council's decision in the meeting 2 weeks ago was based on misinformation. I've listened to the audio, and a lot of what was said and a lot of what the decision was based on was incorrect. That is why I feel that appeal is due. If the decision is to be made because of inaccuracies and lies, or inaccuracies, let's say, then surely it's not really a valid decision. And secondly, the reason for my no-show, as it was put, was people here will be aware that there's a cell tower going in, very, very close to the top of Ocean View Road. The person actually leading the campaign to stop that and to stop the possible devaluation of people's homes associated with that cell tower at the top of Ocean View Road is me. The deadline to put the deadline to respond to the second set of questions from the first set of questions was that night. The reason why I didn't turn up and the reason why I wasn't able to fight my cause on the trees was because I was actually busy fighting another fire, trying to stop the cell tower that is going to affect our health, our children's health and our property values from being built very close to the top of Ocean View Road. I just want that put on thing. It wasn't a no-show through choice, it was a no-show through choosing which battles to fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Okay, that closes the public participation part of the meeting, and there are no public delegations. And for the gallery, this is exciting stuff that's happening here. But if you'd like to leave, that's fine.
Tomorrow the council, tomorrow it's closed. Is it possible if I put it in on Thursday?
There'll be people in the office. If you knock on the door, we'll take your paperwork.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, so moving on to the review and approval of minutes of Jan 28th. They are before you. I have one change, but I'll allow the council members to go first. Mr. Bain, Mr. Abbott.
Maybe it's just a suggested one, and unfortunately Councillor Barman is not here, and I think he had a lot of input to this. I read these bullets, sorry. Page 7, bottom of the page, we're talking on staff reports, discussion about utility tax rate increases and what the money would be used for. My understanding was there's a lot of discussion. My thought is if the bullets, third from the bottom read, the budget surplus will be transferred to a fund for future replacement.
The white one or the black one?
The white bullets.
Thank you.
Sorry. Transferred to a fund for future replacement of, inserting the word new in there. And then new infrastructure. I think this was the point Councillor Barmeyer was certainly trying to make in others.
Replacement of new infrastructure. If you're replacing infrastructure, isn't it old infrastructure?
For the future replacement. I think I thought the discussion was around not repeating mistakes of the past, and in the future, as we develop new infrastructure, we're going to put funds aside to eventually replace it.
I'm just not sure how this wording is lacking in terms of conveying an intent to put away money for future replacement of the asset.
It's future replacement of existing infrastructure.
So just to be devil's advocate, if a pipe needed replacing under this scenario, we wouldn't use this fund for that. That doesn't make sense. You are correct in the spirit of the discussion.
I thought that's what Councillor Barmeyer was trying to actually say. I'm not saying unless we all. I thought that what he was trying to say. I was going to suggest the word new get inserted in a few places. It's fine, let's just leave it as it is, and he's not here to explain.
All right, well, he
what
can-
really meant.
He can pull it from the archives and, well, actually, I'm not sure if we can do that. Let's not even worry about that.
Did you make that change to the utility budget?
Will I show it as a transfer to,
But you're not segregated new or used.
it's not like the
No.
infrastructure, that was the point I was trying to make, that it's our estimated surplus which will flow to reserves, but it's different than the infrastructure levy, which is a set amount and it
Yeah, yeah.
goes straight to
Yeah,
reserves,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
right.
the surplus could be higher or lower depending on how we finish.
I think we're in the right, okay, I suggest no amendment as Councillor Abbott does.
I'll accept that.
Thank you, and my change, which should be on page 13, it's just the last bullet point on the bottom, which currently reads, the village legal position with respect to the correspondence received pertaining to 52 Brunswick Road. If that could be struck and amended, council directed the CAO to respond to the owners of 52 Brunswick under legal advice.
That's what's the bullet on the very top of the next page.
Thank you. I amend my
I'll leave it the way
okay,
it
you're
is.
playing your A game today with lack of sleep. There you go.
Leave it there.
I was so happy to see that green sheet, I didn't see it. Okay, no changes for me. All right, motion to accept, thank you, the agenda is amended with just the one seconder.
There's no amendment, right?
No.
No amendment,
No.
no amendment, yes.
Okay, all in favor, done. As is, thank you, and we burnt 5 minutes talking about zip, okay. All right, business arising from the minutes, and I think we're talking about all that right now. I have none. Councillor Abbott?
I have one. So on page 11, a long list of correspondence, and the last dozen items and around 52 Brunswick trees. Items 12 to 18 were on table. They went in correspondence. And based on discussions we had previously, I would have thought they would have been tonight's correspondence. We would have listed those items and referred to them as on table the previous meeting. So once again, someone who just looks at correspondence would see that this stuff was received and heard.
So I'm not following, what we did,
Items-
these should be brought again tonight?
No,
Sorry.
no. So they were not in last week's correspondence.
Right, they were
Then-
brought on table.
They're brought on table. They're not in tonight's correspondence.
Why would they be in tonight's correspondence?
Just let me finish the sentence.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so when I discussed this last time, and I was making the point that some people will look at correspondence, they will not go find the agenda package and look back to see stuff that was on table. My suggestion was, regardless of how they get on table, we should at least list them in one of the other correspondence packages, so that anyone that looks at correspondence will at least see the email was heard. So I would expect it in tonight's, in the second correspondence package, tonight's one, we could list the following corresponding items were on table in last week's meeting, not repeat them, just list them. That's what I was asking before, and I think we had some nods
So
on the table.
my understanding of the conversation that we had about items that appeared elsewhere in the agenda, I think is what,
Mhm.
maybe what I was thinking of.
Yes.
And that's where, even if they're somewhere else in the agenda, we would list them in the
Correspondence.
on-title, in the correspondence section.
Okay,
I
so
don't
these- so
remember
these
having a
items-
conversation about listing them again on the
No,
following
no,
meeting.
but these items have never been listed in the correspondence. They were somewhere else in the agenda. They were on table. They've never been listed in correspondence. They weren't listed last week, they're not listed this week. So to the point that we were asking, if they're somewhere else in the package, it's at least record them in the correspondence
Or-
at some point.
Or
So-
delineated somehow.
Well, if you go on the website,
When they-
it says on table items, right? So you can click on that and see what the on table items were. The correspondence is right there. So unless somebody comes into the office and picks up a paper copy, they're gonna go to the website and they're gonna find the correspondence that way. Doesn't that make more sense?
No, I think people would look at the agenda package, flicks the correspondence to see, oh, my letter wasn't there this week. flip to the correspondence section of the agenda package next week, oh, my letter wasn't there. They're not going to start digging to find out the fact we brought it on table and dealt with it separately. Could we not just list them in the correspondence as received in the previous council meeting as pertained to a different matter dealt at the time, and then there's a list of the correspondence was received. When it was received, and the fact we did acknowledge it and did read it.
So, what you're suggesting then is that these items
Would
be, we could have, you're saying, so if we turn to page 147
Yes.
of the agenda, have a separate category saying, on table items from last week, or from the previous meeting.
Yes.
On table correspondence from previous meeting, and just list them.
Injustice.
And maybe even
You could, if
where
you
they
want.
can be found. If you
Sure,
want to go look
absolutely.
at it, it's,
Absolutely.
go to the website and
Sure.
you'll click on table and you'll find your correspondence, something like that?
Something like that.
And then it would
Okay.
also appear in the action items too, if there was any, for the follow-up.
Correct.
Yeah, because right now they're just lost. Okay.
Question on that. Once we approve the minutes, do they not go on the website in the agenda package of that meeting that they were the minutes for? And you can
Yes.
find them there?
No, the minutes are just the minutes that you see in front of you. The minutes don't include the items. It's the agenda contains the information, but if the agenda didn't contain the information, then it's found in the on table, which is a separate icon on the website. So, sorry, I guess I didn't follow you last time, or it didn't register, so my apologies. I don't have a problem with doing this. If we can, we'll just have to remember that we need to do this and train the new person
I
when
know
they
someone
start
will remind
to do
you.
this. Yeah, we will.
Great. Great. Councillor Abbott, I see you're
You might
beaming
wanna
with this
just-
victory.
You might even want to just, oh, no, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you very much. And I believe that concludes your business arising.
Does now.
Are you good? Neville, are you
I'm
done?
good.
Thank you. Okay, which takes us item 7, unfinished business. And that pesky mayor, what has he done? He's in the process of writing to the RCMP, which was enhanced by the minister opening up another 10 traffic cameras at intersections. So I will have that letter out this week. I commit. CFO, you have 2.
Yes, the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund, we've determined it was established in 1984, so this would be in the 36th year. And I looked into the Van City Foundation, a couple of things. The overriding one is we don't qualify, we're a municipality, it was for nonprofit or charities. But also it doesn't, that program itself doesn't exist anymore, they're launching a new program. Again, it's not available to us, but the program itself is not even available. They'll be introducing it in the fall of 2020. I suspect anyone who had the old program, like the scholarship, it might be grandfathered, but there's no more, but we didn't qualify anyway. So, okay.
Thank you.
And your better fancy, you covered that? Yes.
Oh, yes, 105 and 106.
Okay,
I put
thank
them
you.
together.
Which brings us to the CAO.
Yeah, it's posted and will run again until, I guess, we will bring back any expressions of interest to the February 18th meeting.
When does it close? Does it close the end of February?
I need to have council decision for the February 18th meeting for anyone for their terms to take effect March 1st. Because the old terms expire at the end of February.
Okay, so February 18th.
Thank you. And number 108 is myself and the works manager. I wrote to Mrs. Dudley and had a phone call with her. And I think the email that I sent, which is not in the resident correspondence, so that's neither here nor there, was please give me a call because I wasn't prepared to talk anything about this delicate topic, leaving that for the works manager. When he finally got to the cost of the per dog per poop thing.
And
Mrs. Dudley is in New Zealand currently.
Yes.
And I am still waiting for the cost of
Okay.
compostable dog.
We'll leave this on your soul to reply, and we will strike 108.
Thank you.
And 109, that's in correspondence, that's a strike. And for 110, Councillor Cunliffe is not here, but I would acknowledge Public Works Manager Jaffer for sending that lovely volunteer week email that he did, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I look forward to proclaiming Volunteer Week when it occurs. And that concludes that portion of the meeting, and we are on to number 8, report staff CFO, the municipal grants, please.
So in this report, I've included copies of all of the municipal grant applications for council's review, plus a summary of what all of the quantities were. And this amount is currently in the budget. Just, I didn't want to leave it out, even though it was still subject to approval, because I didn't want to distort the budget. So, like I say, council has a few options. They could approve the grants as presented. They could amend the municipal grants and then approve. Or in the past, we have sometimes had presentations by municipal grant applications with requests over $2,000 to do a presentation. That year, that's just the seniors and the events committee. So I'll leave it to council to decide the direction they want to give staff. Or answer any questions if they have any questions about the applications.
Let's ask any questions for me. Just to tip the hand, I'd be prepared to approve them. But to my colleagues, any questions of the CFO on the pages referenced?
Yes, a couple. Sorry, my questions, I actually scribbled down some stuff. They're really for the applicants more than. So I guess when we decide whether we're going to have applicants over 2010, I can keep the questions for them. If I glance through this and then look at anyone that's not over 2000.
You might be able to answer some of the questions.
Okay. Well, the first one on the events committee, I think is really for the events committee. I commend them on that fundraiser for the beach, but I was hoping to challenge them and they're not planning any more big fundraisers, because it was very successful, but they seem to have a low set themselves a low bar by comparison to their overachievement last year. So I was hoping to see if they planned anything, any other big events. On the Historical Society, I'm a little puzzled by the 50th anniversary picture. Does anyone understand that there was going to be a book they were doing, and now they're going to produce a picture for $500? Does anyone understand that? Sorry, that should be page numbers. Page 45, LVHS grant proposal, 5 lines down, the 50th anniversary picture. In the write-up, they explain that they've cancelled the idea of doing a coffee book, and now they're going to provide coffee table book to a picture for council. Change the coffee book table to a picture for council.
I have the same confusion. I think they were originally going to do a run, which, since I'm on, well, on all the committees, but I see enough emails on them. I think they were exploring doing a coffee table type thing that they could sell or be the 50th anniversary. That's the last I heard. My suggestion on this particular one is we don't have the facts, but I think that council would be quite happy to keep the $500 in the budget and not give a picture to ourselves.
Especially for us, yes.
And who knows what. So I would suggest we pull this one out of the grant total.
Well, actually, on that note, though, they're identifying their expenses, but I think they're funding most of the picture from prior year's funds, because if you notice, they're only asking for $500. I questioned them on this one as well, that they're showing their expenses of $948, but I think they have other sources of funds, because they're only requesting $500.
Unless I'm stealing Councillor Abbott's words, I mean, it's a very generous offer, but for $500 on one of the walls. I'm sure the residents would rather have the $500. So I'm
What
gonna.
I'm saying is we're not putting
I know.
tax
I
money
think-
to that. I'm not disagreeing,
But
but I'm just.
indirectly,
yeah.
we fund
We could say
somehow.
thank you, but reload.
Keep it for a.
So I'm gonna,
cause.
on this one with, we can go around more, I'd ask that this one be pulled from the total and that the Historical Society perhaps drop us an email, or they can come the next time if they'd like. No decision made, I think we'd just like a little more information.
And then I've got one other question on the Historical Society. So they're really asking for $500, 430 of which are spent on registration, archival dues, a website, which is GoDaddy, and a website manager that gets $100. Seems, I mean, I know it's only $430, but it seems like you would think, I mean, that's the entire budget. You wonder if it's not a wonky-wonky way of doing that. Does the website manager, someone who gets paid, I guess? It just seems like all the granting is around the website and fees that they put out.
Councillor Abbott, can I get you to, I've asked that this be pulled off approval tonight. Can I get you to craft an email to go to CFO Rook that can get onward transmitted, and if the Historical SOC could flesh out some of the stuff?
Or I could suggest if council does want these to come back, we would just ask the Historical Society to come back. And if there's questions they
Well,
want to ask the
either
events
or.
committee.
We'll give them the
we could do
questions
it as that amount,
beforehand.
Depending on what the answer is, if council just directs staff to call them back, then I would suggest Historical Society come.
All right, but
as
then
well.
we'll give them the information of what they're being called back for. Okay? And so if you could do that in the next week, Councillor Abbott, thank you.
Okay, and then the last one, some slides in the audience, on the community garden. Am I to understand from this that currently there's approximately $700 in the bank? in cash?
I think it's, no, I think it's 400 that I have. I'm not claiming for any, for this year,
Yeah, I'm aware of
because you're taking it out, but I have, from a fundraiser we did, I have $400 aside on top of that. But that's part of our assets. But other than that, I'm cash. But I'm not asking for physical money, I just want the stuff removed if you're doing it, so it's not demolished, so the stuff can be repurposed again in the future.
Oh, sorry, I misread that. I added on the 2019 grant. Okay, sorry, I misread. Okay, I'm good. The math works now.
Good.
So basically, I put this in here just to show, because it's an ongoing thing, but as you say,
Yeah.
through no fault of their own, there's no community garden this year because of the sewer treatment plant, but then we will reestablish it for them with Public Works.
I'm aware of that.
Good. Councillor Bain, we'll double back to you. Any questions?
Oh, just fine.
All right, then, I will put the motion forward that the municipal grant applications are approved except for Historical SOC, which we'd like some more information on. So the balance are approved. Can I have a seconder? Any discussion?
So are we suggesting we're not going to ask the trio of 2000 to come to council?
The Historical SOC?
No, not the Historical Society, the
Over 2,000.
the ones over 2,000. We're not going to ask them to come to council as we did last year.
I've got all the information I need. Do you want to see them?
I felt it was, if nothing else, it was just nice, part of an update and how did we do last year and what can we do to help you? I don't know.
I think it can be a challenge sometimes for the
Events committee is the
events
challenging one,
committee
just
to,
young families, and I know they had trouble coming last year. Seniors don't have an issue coming.
I'm happy to, I'm fairly close to the events committee, which is, and I believe you are with the social circle? Or at least their leader.
Sure. Who's not mobile, but yes, I can get to IC.
Why don't we split the deal? I'll phone the events committee chair and you phone the social circle chair.
We'll invite them, but not insist.
Invite them if they choose to come next time. If not, no.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you want to invite them or do you want me to invite them? And usually I send them an email
Are
just
you
saying
fine with
that
that?
council.
Fine?
It's the usual practice. Yeah. I mean, you can call them
I'm
too, but
quite
I'm happy
prepared.
to invite
I'm
them.
quite prepared to approve the budget to have them come, and that way they can actually hear our appreciation. Are you fine with that?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
So
so
it'll be
two-pronged.
historical events.
And so the
Seniors?
budget, the municipal grant applications as shown, less the historical SOC, who we're asking some more information on. And secondly, if CFO Rook could arrange with the senior social circle and the events committee
And
to.
historical, I see.
Yep, thank you. Okay, and so, let's just for clarity, we'll go with the motion. Thank you, Councillor Abbott, seconder, Councillor Bain. Any discussion? None in favor? Approved, done. Thank you, thank you, and especially thank you to our volunteers. Okay, next up, who doesn't love a preliminary budget on page 59? If you got one hand, put it up. Too focused.
Should probably just pass around here.
Do you want me to
Yeah, that'd
pass
be
them
great.
around?
Thank you.
Thank you.
See.
Do you want me to put the fire department building on the overhead?
Yeah, I guess we could, or I guess we could quickly go through it. I mean,
Is
it's not
it-
like
do
we're
you have it
making a
in paper?
decision yet. Yeah, everyone's getting it in paper.
Okay, done, wait.
So, yeah, so this is really council's first detailed look at the 2020 preliminary budget with the departmental summaries. We did a very preliminary budget last November, which I presented. So we basically got attached the first draft with departmental summaries, along with some supplemental requests, which at this time are not included in the budget, just for review and discussion. As you can see, at this point, there's a minimal surplus with a 0% tax increase, so any additional capital and supplemental requests would have to be funded by taxation or draws from surplus and/or reserves. So I had a suggestion that for this meeting, we'd have questions, review, and discussion about the budget, and then we would continue it at the February 18th meeting, when hopefully we would have full attendance by council. And at that time, we can also start talking about additional capital projects that we'd like to see, because my objective would be to get direction from council of what capital projects they'd like to see over the next 5 years. Like we're looking at the Bayview Road, for which we're applying for a grant, Ocean View Drainage, just basically going back to the IMP and looking at the projects and making an attempt to rank them, to start including them in the 5-year plan and discussing options to fund them. So if there were any questions, and the two on-table items, there's a proposed fire hall expansion, and I've just attached a narrative by Chief Oliver explaining some of the reasons, and there's some additional supplementals. It's just kind of a list from Mayor McLaughlin.
Alrighty, let's, did you want to go through the preliminary budget beyond the supplementals, CFO, or are you just going for Q&A?
I think maybe Q&A, and I'll give the councillors opportunity who have reviewed it to ask me any questions about any of the numbers.
Well, who shall go first, Councillor Abbott? You look, In a
my
prime of
questions are
life.
kind of more around the capital spend and the supplemental. If we're going to do it again at the next meeting when we've got more members present, I kind of feel like it's something we want as many people to discuss as possible. So
Yeah, this isn't in isolation. I see this as at least a 2 meeting. This is your
Yeah.
first look at it. I could maybe answer questions in terms of your understanding, and then we will bring, you know, the same budget back. I mean, there might be, we're fine tuning some of the numbers if we get more information. Like, for example, we just recently got our actual insurance numbers, so I've run those through the budgets, and there's a few other things we're waiting for. And then again, we would go through and discuss the same supplementals. it's a lot of information, so I like the idea of giving a bit of time to absorb it,
That's right.
think of more questions.
And my questions on how it all works and how you add the numbers up is getting less and less because as you presented in November and last year earlier, so I don't have less of those, so I'll keep the capital kind of
And then-
questions around to a lot more people.
Yeah. And then I would also ask that if you think of something, just send me an email, any council member. Mayor McLaughlin has gone through this a few sessions with me, has provided a list for discussion, but if you think of things that you'd like us to consider as part of the budget, just send me an email and I can include it for the next meeting.
Okay.
Actually, I hadn't thought about it. I kind of agree with Councillor Abbott that with bare quorum, a lot of the conversations lost or be repetitive. So why don't we just hold the supplementals until next meeting, if you're fine with that, Councillor Bain. I mean, the other two are in this. By that I'm talking about the supplementals, the on-table items. I'm interested in some of the stuff that's here that's very pertains to your budget that you've done. Are you fine with that, Councillor Abbott?
I am.
Good. Then we're on the path.
Okay.
So, Q&A?
Yes?
All right. May I go first, Councillor Abbott? Thank you, and I'll number the pages as I'm going, and I'll be quick because I'm trying to throw the CFO off balance. Quickly then, and in fact, I'll try and slur my words and do periods of silence to completely throw you off. Starting on page 60, quick Q&A. Could you refresh me what other revenue is? All $114,000 of it?
If you go to, there's a little more detail on page 62. So a big portion is external borrowing. As I think I explained at last week's meeting, any borrowing for budget purposes is seen as revenue because we don't need to tax for it. We've got net proceeds from land sales. I mean, that's the bulk of it. Well, I think I showed that as maybe a separate line on there. So the balance would make up the number you're talking about. So it's the fire department call-outs, donations to the fire department, firefighter day revenue, tax penalties and interest.
Okay, so
and
it
interest on
so it
bank
is selected
account.
other revenue.
Selected other revenue that doesn't fit into the other definitions. These definitions actually of revenue are defined by the community charter.
Thank you very much. And I get confused again at the bottom of page 60, and it's transfer from surplus to loan. And could you just, we've been running through a bunch of loans here. Which loan is this loan?
That's the loan for the water tank.
Thank you.
So basically we get the money, but I have to bring it into revenue as we spend it.
Thank you very much. Next page, page 61 at the top in the taxation.
Yes.
Grants in lieu, could you refresh me again? What?
Grants in lieu are money we get from the utilities, so it would be TELUS, Shaw, and Hydro.
Thank you.
And they pay it to all municipalities. It's a percentage of their revenue that we get paid in lieu of taxes. And it's a percentage of the revenue, usually about 1% of revenue that they earn in the village.
Thank you very much. I'm flipping to page 64 at the very bottom, item 5. The salaries include the new 3-day-a-week administrative assistant position approved by council.
That was the restructuring approved, about a year ago when Fran McNichol retired.
Yeah.
So we have a full-time admin assistant, and then we had the Susan Lovetat's position 3 days a week, and part of the justification was a catch-up of backlog that we'd fallen into with record retention, among other things.
Yes, and like this for the CAO. Are we restyling the name of the former executive assistant to something else now?
Municipal coordinator.
2 different job descriptions in your mind?
It's just tweaked slightly.
Okay, so that's got, okay, done. Thank you, I'm good with that. And I'll keep quiet until we get to Councillor Abbott. I'm sure he'll start on the CapEx stuff, which begins at page 73, but I have nothing on the other items.
So I only had one other one on page 64. small dollar, big change. What's the fiscal charges in the general fund and why about the previous years?
The fiscal charges, yeah, that includes, we started offering, we have Moneris fees now because we're trying to have more options for people paying taxes. So we have credit cards now and not debit cards yet. We're hoping to introduce those. So those fees weren't budgeted for last year because it was a program that we introduced during this year. So I had to budget for those. It's just a low percentage of the actual payment, but we're having more and more people pay by credit card. It seemed to be quite a demand for it. And then the other was the parking fees. We had kind of missed budgeting it last year. We had under budgeted last year because it was the first year we actually had them, because although it's the second year of the parking, the first year we had negotiated. We had a more basic meter and the costs weren't as high. So this reflects more the actual fees. So that's what the increase is. The bulk of the fiscal charges is banking charges and things, but it increased because of those two items that we had to budget this year.
So residents can now pay their taxes by credit card? Like
They
physically
can.
come into the office with a card?
No,
or?
not in the office. They have to do it online through our website. And there is a charge, and it's not our charge, because as a municipality, we're not allowed to charge. That's why so few municipalities up to now have allowed credit cards. So it's identified, the fee that they will pay, and not too many people choose to pay it because they can just come into the office and pay, but we also allow it for the parking fines, and we find that's had a huge impact. A lot of people out of town have actually struggled with paying their parking fees because a lot of people don't have checks anymore. So we found a real uptake in people paying parking tickets once we allowed them to pay it online with a credit card. And the fee on that would be very minimal because the average ticket is just $40 as opposed to $4,000 for your property taxes.
I think in McLaughlin hit the other one that I kind of circled the big changes in them. And other than the ones I now understand, which can switch, so I'm good.
All right then, Councillor Bain.
Got a few thoughts. Some of them are pretty trivial, I suppose. Page 61. I'm just curious why the building permits went from 91,000 somewhat and we're budgeting 65 this time. Is there a change?
It's because, building permits. To date. Yeah, that's a tough one. The year before, I had budgeted, it looked like they were trending up, and I actually was 20,000 unfavorable. Building permits, even when I worked at West Vancouver, one of the most challenging things to budget because you really have no idea. So we had a couple of new houses that were built in 2019 that we hadn't been expecting. So I put 65. I mean, it's something we can look at and maybe raising. I mean, I don't want to budget too much because we're short the revenue and then there's a shortfall in our budget. We don't see as many new houses on the horizon. Like there's ones currently being built now, but they've already paid their building permit fees, and then it's generally 1 to 2 years of the building inspector's time. So like it doesn't show here when you show the 2018 actual. I think I actually budgeted 70,000 in 2018, so we really missed it because the year before it had been high. I work with the building inspector and we do our best to anticipate what new houses, but what we can't predict is major renovations. Sometimes we think there's a trend of major renovations, then there's none because the fee on a major renovation can be very, very high. If you completely, tear down the house, it's almost like a new house. But it is a point. I could look, talk to the building inspector, look at, maybe re-examine it and see if we can raise it a little bit. But of all the numbers, that's probably, it almost is a bit of a guess. There's no accounting way to really predict what your building permit revenue is going to be in the year.
Okay. Well, the other one that probably isn't a guess is down to the rental agreement with the BC ambulance. Has
Yes.
there been a change in the rental now?
Yes, it changes, it goes up every 5 years, but it goes up in the middle of the year, so we sort of have to stagger. So that number should be completely accurate. But you're right, it has changed because it was a long-term lease, and in the lease there's an increase every 5 years. That one's easy to budget.
Never mind those ones. Oh, donations to the Lions Bay Fire Department, they're separate from the firefighter day revenue, which I understand. Are these cash donations, or do you include when somebody donates a car for their AutoX program?
No, we haven't historically given, not too many people do that. They usually buy the cars, and it's a tough one with Revenue Canada. We have, I think, given one donation receipt in the past, but there has to be really good evidence of what the car is worth and things like that. That tends to be, the reason it's dropped so much in the budget is last year we knew we were getting a $7,000 donation from the Lions Club. So that's why that was higher. And again, that's a bit of a guess. They generate a lot of revenue from the Firefighters Day, but a lot of it's from the silent auction. Actual donations usually just get blended in with just the Firefighter Day revenue, unless someone gives us a large donation and wants a receipt. It doesn't get tracked.
Okay, just curious. Over on page 65, I looked in the election thing and we've got nothing here. I thought we had sort of the practice of every year we would put something in the kitty for elections. And
We did, Councillor Bain. That's a very good catch. And I apologize, I should have made a note because we had been putting money aside and then we had no election. So I have some money left over. So I actually, for the next couple of years, don't have to put any aside.
good point.
But I started to just do it automatically, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute. I mean, there were a few costs, because we still had to do the school trustee, but most of them were picked up by West Vancouver, so I have a surplus in my surplus, so I don't need to tax for it. But you are correct. It's a very common practice of all municipalities to take the cost of the election and tax a little bit each year, so you don't get hit with a really big budget item in the year of the election.
Sorry, there's one other I'm kind of curious about, page 73, item number 5, the emergency generator. It seems like a bit of a football.
Yes.
We're going this way, and now we're going this way, and now we're looking at one for the hall.
Well, originally we wanted one, our goal is to get a generator for the entire complex, something that can do the office and also do the hall as well. And we thought we had a lead for about 9 months on one from a donation from West Vancouver, and then realized that wasn't going to work. And then we've been pricing them, and it looks like it will cost about $65,000 to get one big enough for both sides. So we've taxed for $30,000. So I presented this that we could get an additional amount so we can get just one generator that'll do the whole unit. But at a minimum, we would like to get one for the office, because that in some ways is the more pressing need. We found with a few of the hydro outages, it really put a strain on our server. We had a portable generator, but we really have a lot of downtime. It's really hard on the computers, and so that was the suggestion, that our first choice would be get one, just get it over with, and get one for the whole complex.
Yeah, so the generator that would have sufficed from West Van was not compatible with our power system, and that's why it fell by the wayside. We couldn't get it. So
I have a chainsaw in the basement that's not working that I got from West Van too. Sorry. That's it for me.
Have we considered, if it's laptops and computers he's trying to, have we considered a UPS instead of a generator?
in a power outage during an emergency, we need the facility powered as well. So we need the lights, the fridge, all of that powered. So it's not just UPS.
No, sorry, I was thinking you had a generator that was a bit old, hokey, and it was damaged to the computers.
It was a portable.
If you had a UPS
Yeah.
for the
We do actually.
computers and stuff,
Yeah.
and they run the lights and stuff off the other less than
Right.
sort of sophisticated generator, because then otherwise you have to design web generators and stuff if you're worried about the computers, right? So you can combine the two.
Yeah, so staff did purchase UPS
Yes,
for the
to protect
computers
them.
and the server.
And it gives us about an hour when it's just enough to sort of get off the computers, but there's also no lights. I mean, you really can't work unless you have a functional office. But we did get the UPSs for that projection. They didn't cost a lot. We actually had enough room just in our budget to purchase them for every computer in the office.
Alrighty, anything else, Councillor?
So to recap, we think there'll be a generator for the office only. Is that what we're saying?
No, we prefer one for the whole
The big
complex,
complex.
but at a minimum, we'd like to use the money we've already taxed to get one for the office.
Okay.
So I guess there'll be a future discussion.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I can't have everyone, so.
Alrighty.
Can I just go back to just one other comment that I might mention on page 69? $2,000 for the log splitter. We are being very careful where we store the log splitter. We don't want to make any mistakes we made in the legislative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said. I had a delayed reaction, I thought.
Some of the politicians got in trouble for log splitters.
Yes,
Where they
yes.
stored them.
Yes,
We
they
don't want
did.
to make that mistake.
Yes, they did. We're going to chain it to the Public Works office,
Yes.
and only I will have the key.
Okay.
Okay, last one up then, and I'll give you last word, Council Abbott. So if you go to page 73, if I can, again, we're going to see this with our colleagues again, but my quick two bits are number one, the concrete stairs, that's got to be done, it will be done. Number two, kudos to staff drawing from the land reserves and doing the concrete stairs at the same time. They are concrete, aren't they? Yes?
It's to be
The
determined.
beach days?
The Kelvingrove Beach Park
KG or
stairs?
concrete too?
No, I don't know if you recall, we had a resident, Mr. Greg Weary, approach us about not installing concrete and doing something more environmentally friendly, like a natural pathway
Okay.
down to the beach. So,
Okay, so that's beach land reserve back to the beach, so that's fine, so that's good. The item number 3 and number 4 are on hold, and I guess our grant application is sitting in Ottawa now with great restraint. The CAO has held me back from making phone calls to press the flesh. Although Mr. Wiley will be at the meeting I'm at next Monday, and that coffee may be talking, I don't know. The generator, if I never see this generator again, it will be too soon. Please buy the generator and strike this. It's more than just the office, where it's an emergency center, it's the whole thing here. In my view, it's just, why, you'll appreciate this, CFO, why fight with one hand? I'm saving that one. There we go. So that's my 2 bits worth on that. The big items I think we'll save till our colleagues are here. I understand what a septic field is. The laptop's nothing to me. The DPEC contract, I would gladly approve that if we could gladly land our man for an extension. The paving, we'll hold that to the next one, but I think I know where that's going. Same with the culvert, the hoists. The fire department stuff is neutral there. The burn building. The other fire capital is smallish. The fire hall expansion, I think we'll save that one. And the big TBD on fire trucks looks a lot like community amenity charges to me. Should council so approve them.
That was from the chief, which I support, is a gentle reminder that we have fire trucks that will need to be replaced very
And
soon.
I'm not going to compete with the chief, but I know that it's not like playing cards when we sit around with the rest of the mayors, but there's a lot of trading of assets for fire trucks and things like that, of who's trying to move them out and who would want them. I don't know one fire truck from the other than they're both red. So if there's anything I can do, putting in our wish list, happy to do that.
Careful what you wish for.
Well, some of these, I don't know. I know it's been done, so, Councillor Abbott, any more questions?
No, I think I'll look for the future meeting when we review everything else and we'll discuss.
Okay. Councillor Bain, last word?
Yeah, just one thing I forgot. hold on, shop hoist for the trucks. Is that something you could move to the new facility if we do move? It's not, like they don't do the old in-ground pipes anymore, they're all 4-pointers or 2-pointers, I guess.
Correct, yes. They could be moved to the new facility, or they could be incorporated in an RFP when we design and build the new facility.
Oh, okay.
So it's up for discussion with you guys.
All right, if there's no further discussion, then can I have a motion to receive? Seconder, all in favor? CFO, we have received. Which brings, if you like that budget, you're gonna like water, solid waste, and sewer.
Okay. This was, the detailed budget was presented at the last council meeting, where I think most of the questions were addressed. I'm presenting it again with the recommended rate increases of 5% for water, 4% for solid waste, and 0% for sewer. There's been a few changes to the budget, kind of puts and takes, particularly the water budget. Like I said, I had got the final insurance numbers in, so in the case of water, insurance went up a little bit. We had a sort of an unexpected $10,000 expense for intake maintenance. So I meant to write down what it was, Alberto's request. Anyway, I've incorporated that into the budget. Sorry, Alberto, the thing that broke the screen on the...
The
UV,
LCD
sorry.
panel on the UV reactor.
Yes. Okay. So I've included that in, but then I reduced the capital expenditure to offset. And we, now that we've hired a public works technician who's starting in May, I know the exact start date, so I was able to reduce salaries a bit. I had had more salary than I had needed. So at the end of the day, expenses are up $1,700 from the budget you saw last, offset by a $10,000 reduction. But with a 5% increase, we will be transferring $84,000 to water surplus if we come in on budget. So like I say, this is a little different than the infrastructure levy, where last year it's a fixed amount and it goes straight to a reserve. This is, we're budgeting to have a surplus. It could be more than this. It could be less, a little bit less than this, and it will go to the water surplus for future infrastructure spending at the end of the year. And the solid waste budget is unchanged, and the sewer budget is very close. The expenses have just been reduced by about $1,800 because the allocation for insurance for sewer went down a bit, and again, their salaries were reduced a bit because of my correction to the public works wage budget. And then these are the increases that are going forward to the utility bylaws that are later in the package.
Thank you very much, CFO. And just to recap, when you're saying that, should have asked this question last time, year-to-date actual, that's the, here we are in mid-February. Just the total expenditures for 2019. So you balanced your stuff and you're pretty close in this number?
Yes, we're still waiting for a few more invoices. If we find the end of the year invoices dragging slowly, but
okay.
It is quite, I'd say it's like 95% accurate.
Okay, so then at the end of the day, if I follow down from the 2019 budget and actual, we have significant surpluses.
Yeah, we had a higher surplus than anticipated through the budget.
Thank you very much. And
that was mainly, again, due to wages. We had a vacancy in public works
well,
most of the year that we hadn't anticipated.
Budget for what you budget for, so this 84, which was pretty much the number we talked about last time. Great, I'm fine with this. I'm pleased with this. I'm pleased with the actual for 2019. Gentlemen?
Councillor Bain?
Nope. Councillor Abbott?
So on page 77, the water budget, so all three needs comes in as you predicted. You will transfer 84,000 to surplus.
Yes, to water surplus,
To
yes.
water surplus. Last year's actual was 205,000. So
Yes.
what is the water surplus budget, the water surplus at this stage in total? So where do we see that?
We see that in the financial statements. The financial statement surplus will be a little bit different than this because this is cash-based, but there is still will definitely be a surplus. And that's tracked in the financial statements. In the notes to the financial statements, we have sort of a general accumulated surplus. And then there's a note that shows the breakdown. And so that there is definitely a surplus in water. There was a deficit when I first started, and we've been slowly building up the surplus. And that's money we can draw on for unexpected events, and we can use it to, put towards water capital. And in a perfect world, that surplus matches the depreciation of assets, and that's what we're working to see if we can start having a surplus each year that's equal to what our depreciation is or close to it, so that we're putting aside enough money to replace future replacement of existing assets.
Okay.
If I'm a taxpayer and I see, so we overpaid our water budget by $206,000, that would imply I'm being overtaxed.
Well, no, you can see that we budgeted $122,000 surplus last year, and it actually ended up being $205,000. And the biggest difference of that was, I think it's more explainable. It was we budgeted for having a public works person all year, and most of the year we were missing a public works person. So it's an explainable variance. Because I agree, I don't like seeing budgets where we're favorable in every budget because we padded the budget, and we don't pad the budget here.
All right, let's not use that expression. Okay,
Say we
so
don't.
to our senior team then, so have we inked the deal for the new person, or the
Yes.
ink is dry? Thank you.
And that's why I've adjusted the budget, because now we
Okay.
know when the
Now
person's
we know.
starting. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
So,
in May.
and was there a retention clause in there that if you leave, we go find you and do nasty things?
No, that's contrary to the Employment Standards Act.
Oh,
And the collective.
And when it comes to public works, we hire and we keep them. Our problem is getting them. But once we've got them,
Okay.
they tend to stay.
all right, thank you. All right, so I think we can look our taxpayers in the eye on these ones then. Thank you. Councillor Abbott, last chance. You good? I'll put forward the motion to receive. Second, all in favor? Done, thank you. Which brings us to the DEPC item. And I think we should thank every day that Robert Whitney is under our roof.
So this is a grant application that we're putting in with the UBCM. They have a component that is for upgrades to the emergency support services. They call it the emergency support services stream. And it's for the purpose of purchasing new equipment and technology assets to ensure that we are fully positioned to take advantage of the modernization program that is taking place with Emergency Management BC's ESS modernization program. So the village, the resolution here is to show that council supports this grant application and will provide overall grant management toward it. So Robert's been working on what this will look like, and he'll lock that down very shortly and submit the application. What we've got right now, we're looking at computers, a couple of computers and peripherals, a couple of tablets, a couple of printers, protective cases. So the ESS modernization budget for this grant is about $6,700, and then we have ESS portable shelter equipment. So we've got power cords and power bars, portable generator, portable lighting, and that would go to support the portable tent that was purchased already. So the ESS portable shelter costs total about $5,000. So we're looking at about 11,600 or thereabouts. And so that'll get tweaked and submitted shortly, and we're just looking for council's support via the resolution.
Alrighty, well then let's get right to it. So this is on, well, it's in your agenda, but on page 2, but it's also on page 83, which is a recommendation, which is item 1. And that begins that an application be submitted, and it's many, many lines, and I'm trying to make up some time here, so let's put that forward as my motion. Can I have a seconder? Any discussion on this, gentlemen? Yes, Councillor Bain.
Just the communication plan. I'm familiar with the ESS team, and I just wonder if you could do something with the wording here. Talking about village update outlining the project to modernize Lions Bay ESS team. I guess in the back of my mind, I know most of the members are seniors now, and it may not be worded the best way.
Okay, I'm gonna give that a strong 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
You get the point.
yeah.
Assets, not people.
Doesn't read friendly, okay,
Thank you.
We will reword that.
thank you,
Words, village update.
thank you. Councillor Abbott?
Probably a question as much as a discussion or comment. So on page 87, grant maximum make statement can contribute a maximum of 100% of the cost. Then if you go down to the application requirements process, those 4 bullets together, the third bullet, must clearly identify CV funding request applicant contribution. So it's like, are we supposed to volunteer our contribution, or are we applying for 100%? Or
No, this is,
understand this?
this would be just if there are other aspects to, if you've got a program that you're working towards, you might have other streams of revenue going towards a project. And this, you're drawing from
so
the
you might-
ABCN grant, but you might have some other grant,
Fundraisers
or
or something.
Vancouver Foundation or whatever. And so you would have to show any other revenues that you're receiving from other grants
For the same use.
for the same project, yeah. And that's a common requirement
Okay.
in all of the grants, so
Okay,
you've got to
so-
show your,
So it's 100% grant.
yeah.
Anything else, Councillor Abbott?
No.
Call a motion, all in favor? Thank you. Which brings us to, I hate the word washout.
Are we there yet?
Amazingly so.
January 27th, staff received a complaint from a trail walker about a issue on Loggers Lane Trail. Upon investigation, staff found that a culvert had, the bottom had deteriorated and a portion of the culvert had collapsed, causing a blockage, resulting in a river flowing down the Loggers Lane Trail. Some of the voids on that trail are almost 2 feet deep, so Public Works has closed the trail. The trail requires complete resurfacing and a new culvert. Estimated costs probably about 5 to 7K.
I like that number. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
So I went and had a look myself, actually took some pictures. So the culvert that's famous, a small culvert, I don't know, maybe 8 or maybe 10-inch, that seems to be one end you get visible squashed, and that's kind of where the water's running down, and you can't see where it comes from, what it actually does. Is that the culvert you're talking about replacing?
Yeah, so that was basically blocked at the squash point. It was blocked with debris that had flown down.
So that culvert purely just crossed the road? It doesn't, there's no, because it looked like it went into that neighbour's garden, I was wondering where it started from.
Yeah,
It's just a road crossing?
just a road crossing, yeah.
Okay, so that's why it's only 5%, okay. The big culvert, that's just right there, if you're not really far away. I went and had a look at that culvert, there's a lot of water going in, There's a lot of water coming out the other side, but most of it is
Underneath.
the culvert.
Correct.
So there's a bigger problem coming soon.
Yeah, so both those culverts will be replaced. The 5 to 7K is for gravel road base and replacement culvert pipe. Staff time doesn't come into this.
So the intention is to replace both the big culvert and the small one
Yeah,
for that amount of money?
yeah.
Wow.
It's internal, it's
It's
just,
internal.
we just need to buy the pipe.
Okay. And the second thought I had when I was looking at that big culvert, and I was imagining we're going to go out and pay someone to do this, which you know from previous road crossings is not going to, it's going to be orders of magnitude greater. I was wondering, did it somehow fit into the Bayview water drainage project? But because that's the source of where it comes from, is that culvert actually in any way part of that project? It's certainly
No.
impacted by it. I would
Yeah, it's impacted by it, but it's not part of that.
But whatever we do would, if we did decide to do this, would still be sized suitably for whatever comes out of that project. We're not going to then find out that we just put culverts too small.
Correct, yeah.
Got more water coming.
Yeah,
It would be appropriate.
it would be inappropriate, it would be oversized actually.
So at the bottom of the Bayview DWIP project, there's a, I forget what you call it, but a catchment or just something that filters.
Stormwater interceptor.
Okay. And so, and that's at the end, correct?
Correct.
And where does the water go when it, after it's passed through that interceptor?
It flows into that creek that's shown.
So this creek here?
Yeah. Go down, 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 that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it would be up here that it flows into it?
correct.
And the other culvert would be over
It's
here.
closer to the
Yeah.
road.
Right.
All right, and Public Works Manager, this is under your budget. You're not looking for anything from us?
If council is going to make a decision next week, the trail would be remain closed until that time.
Decision to what?
We don't have culverts in stock or
We do have culverts.
gravel.
Yeah, we do have culverts, we don't have gravel in stock.
Right.
Those culverts were earmarked for another job, but we could move them to the trail
Yes.
and
Good.
begin work.
Do you have one big enough for that big
Yeah,
one that looks like it's 3 feet or something?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not.
yeah.
Moving DP.
Yeah.
And what about current budget that you're working under presently?
We could do it at operations.
We could, yeah, because we don't specifically have that in the budget, but if we feel we can absorb it in operations. I mean, technically, I guess it's in the 5-year plan. I guess what you're saying is if you want work done before we've actually adopted the budget, then council could give staff direction to.
Yeah.
I think staff's just looking for council to say, yeah,
Okay.
fix a trail and do what you need to do to fix it.
One last question. Do we use that for vehicular access? Do we need it for
No.
vehicular access?
No.
Shouldn't we reinstate it just to a walking trail historically, instead of keeping that big wide distance open?
So historically, Public Works has not maintained trails. However, in the future, as volunteers are unable to effect larger projects, that could provide us with a key access to the Centennial Trail, where there are some bridges that need to be replaced. So we currently don't use it for a roadway.
Would you like
However,
to keep it for roadway width?
absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, I guess the request for direction is please do it now or please wait. Please do it now. Can I have a seconder on that one? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a really good resolution. Okay.
Please do it now.
Please do it now. Seconded.
It's
Carried.
unspecific, but there you go. Okay, so the next item, it's the place mark, and we're gonna bring that one back. The mayor, he will be quiet. Council members, anything to advise?
No, we've got
Oh.
an open meeting on table report.
Okay, sorry.
And then there's a component of the report that will need to be discussed in
Thank you.
closed. But we can have as much as possible in the open meeting.
Oh, yeah, you have to have the whole thing. This is what we do manually. That's from the photocopy. The small one. But it makes it easier for accounting stuff. You need binders
Yep.
used. And the whole study is on these 2 pages. It's requirement. Requirement.
So, Mr. Japper,
So the tender was put out on BC bid December 18th, 2020. We received interest from 4 separate companies. However, only 2 submitted a response by the deadline. I will add that the deadline was extended by another week to allow more time to.
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
Two
Sorry,
weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
To allow one of the companies to prepare their bid for submission. The 2 bids, the prices are in the report. The low price being 1.018 from Industra. And the second bid is the Tritech bid for 1.58. These are the construction costs. They do not include the project management engineering portion, which is expected to be about 10% of the total.
Is that the award of the project management?
No.
You had a preferred, so we have to go out and do an RFP for that?
We will, because of the dollar amount in our purchasing policy.
I think we need to take a look at that because we've already engaged an engineer to date with respect to the first 2 phases of this project. And I think that
I'm working very closely with MOE in obtaining approval.
I think that that's a different circumstance that
Okay.
bears some examination, so.
The reason we don't have a cost on that right now is that there are there's a missing schedule in the low bid. So the construction schedule hasn't been mapped out by the lower bidder, and the engineer that's currently working with us couldn't gauge how much project time he'd need or how many site visits he'd need until that schedule is provided to him.
Okay.
Would the production of the schedule change the bid?
No. Dollar amount wise, no.
Okay.
Before we discuss anything further, just you referred to something will need to be discussed in closed on
Yeah.
this matter?
Yeah, so there was you see that the report refers to an attachment, HD award recommendation letter.
Yeah.
So that was circulated to council earlier today, and we'll have it available enclosed for
Okay.
more detailed analysis, and probing questions can be asked by council.
Okay, I did see it. Okay, so and then at that part. did
I
that
think we're
time
done
was-
for now on
This is
the
just
open.
the
Yeah.
open part.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is just the unverified bid part.
so the substance is that the recommendation is shown as item number 1, number 2, and that's the preferred staff recommendation, is that correct?
Correct.
to which I suggest we come back after
Okay.
we have been, had a chance to discuss, council had a chance to discuss it both.
All right, then we will table this item for the time being. So I think the mayor will be silent. Council members, anything to advise? Committees none, emergency services none, which brings us to secondary suites, which is on page 95 of your songbooks.
Okay, so, yeah, who was it who said, well, I'm not right to do 3 readings at once, but in my haste, I did not recognize or notice that the clause that I was seeking to add as clause number 10 to the bylaw was already contained earlier in the bylaw. So that's egg on my face. But we need to correct that, and so we need to rescind third reading and amend it by removing the extra clause that I asked council to add. We did also add the, there was a change for a couple of words that were missing from one of the sections that those words appeared in. I think it was regardless of whether or not the person considers it to be a secondary suite. So the motion or the recommendation is to rescind third reading and reread it a third time without the extra severance clause.
Okay, pretty straightforward. So I'll put forward the motion that third reading of secondary suite surcharge bylaw number 513, 2017, amendment bylaw number 571, 2020 be rescinded without the extra clause in that. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion? Actually, we can do them both at the same time. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, okay. So,
Well,
council.
we probably best to
All right,
rescind
just going
it
to separate them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
And
will
then-
separate. Thank you.
and then reread it.
Thank you. A seconder, Councillor Abbott. Yes, discussion on this one? Fine, call a motion, all in favor? Okay, that part's done. Then to go back to get the third reading, the secondary suite surcharge bylaw number 513, 2017, amended bylaw number 571, 2020, be amended and be reread a third time.
That's amended to remove the extra clause.
Yes, with the extra clause, thank you. I'll put forward the motion, seconder. Any discussion? Nope, all in favor? Passed. All right, moving along to water rates on page 105.
So this this amendment by law normally would just be amending the Schedule A for the rate for this year, but in the process I wanted to clean these up a little bit and catch a few typos and incorrect dates, so we'll need to clarify the wording of the bylaw to emphasize that payments are due December 31st rather than March 31st. March 31st being the date, the due date for receipt of the applicable discount for early payment. So that's what this bylaw does. Is it does that. Plus, you'll see on page 107, there's a number of typographical and other housekeeping type amendments that clean the bylaw up a bit. It's bylaw number 2 from 1971 and is on our list to redo in full and modern water bylaw. But until then, I thought I'd just clean it up while I was at it, and you'll see Schedule A is the new rates for this year.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Looking at the original bylaw, I couldn't decide whether I was fading out or whether the original typed version was pleasant to the eye or not. It's just so different to see typing in that format now.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And then I'm looking at former Mayor Stewart signed it with Bernice Pullen. Wow, that was a different time. Okay, all right to it then. So per the staff recommendation, the water rates and regulations bylaw number 2, 1971, amendment bylaw number 568, 2020 be introduced and read 3 times. This will be for all 3. I'll put forward the motion. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion? That would be Councillor Bain.
Yeah, Peter, you might, this one you were talking about typos and you wrote down that one, superscript, but not that one. Is that an issue with you?
oh, the superscript didn't show up?
No.
But that's actually the amending bylaw itself has the superscript. So it's just a case of catching that when we do the consolidation and put it on the website.
Since you're looking for typos,
Yep.
I would mention.
Thank you.
Do you need to keep that there?
I'll make a note on my copy.
Are we going to handle that offline? Whatever this is.
That's inconsequential, it's just the consolidation.
Okay.
The actual bylaw that you've just given 3 readings to
Okay.
is correct.
Thank you very much. All right. Any further discussion, Councillor Bain? No? Then I'll call a motion. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Moving on to sewer user bylaw on page 127.
So this one, same thing in terms of qualifying December 31st instead of March 31st as the due date for payment, the latter being the discount date. And for this one, there's no Schedule A change because we did not increase the rate.
All right. Fairly straightforward. Okay, so per the staff recommendation, I'll put forward the motion that sewer user rates bylaw number 122, 1984, amendment bylaw number 569, 2020 be introduced and this be considered reading it 3 times. That's my motion. Can I have a seconder? Any discussion? Gentlemen, nothing? Call a motion. All in favor? Thank you. Garbage and recycling on page 135.
So again, December 31st, no, March 31st, and Schedule A reflects this year's annual charges.
Thank you very much. And go. So for the recommendation, I'll put forward the motion that garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, 2013, amendment bylaw number 570, 2020 be introduced and this be considered reading it 3 times. I'll put forward the motion. Seconder, thank you, Robert. Any discussion?
Just a question, and I've asked this before. So why are the prompt payment discounts different on each one? Why is this 3.5, the other one's 2.5, and the first one's 2?
It's because there's such a, and it's a good question, there's such a variation in the amount we charge. So we actually figure out kind of the dollar amount we want as the discount, and then we calculate from that the percentage. So the water fees are a lot higher. So it's only a 2% discount, whereas if we had a fixed amount, the discount would be too high in some areas. So it gives us a flexibility. We just want to offer a relatively small because it's a lost revenue to us. I mean, it's the advantage of getting the money early. So that's why. We can set the discount at whatever we want, but it's actually more, we come in with sort of a ballpark figure of what we want, and then the percentage was done. Like it was before my time, the percentage, but if we offered like 3.5% on water, it wouldn't be worth it. I would wait until December 31st and just have everyone pay us. Then it would be a very large discount. So that's why. The percentage falls out
Why
in the
don't make it a
calculation.
flat fee then? That's fine. Okay.
Why not make it a flat fee?
We could, I think it's just easier to show as a percentage, that's all. And the
Okay.
discount does increase a little bit as the fees go up, so they get a bit more of a discount to help offset an increase in the fee.
Okay. Caught me off guard. Were we on garbage now? Yes. We're on a roll there. Okay, so on page 135, this is the, just did that, didn't we? I'm trying to. Pardon?
You need to move in second.
I need to move in second. Okay, I've read it. Move, second, Counselor Abbott. Oh, I'm first, second, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Not that four of them look exactly the same, but sorry. My apologies. Brings us to correspondence, and let there be a drum roll and a hearty thank you to Counselor Abbott for the first quarter being done. And here we are at the second quarter, and Counselor Bain, good voice or bad voice? You are up.
Mediocre. G1, general. It says resolution from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. They want postal banking down at the Canada Post. I don't think that really would apply to us, so just proceed and move on, unless anyone disagrees.
Well, I think what it is the town of Canal Flats, or village of Canal Flats, is supporting the initiative from the Postal Workers Union to push Canada Post to utilize powers that they have under the Postal Act to provide banking services in smaller and more remote communities that don't have banks and financial institutions, but they do have a post office. So whether or not there are financial services and products that could be of assistance to the residents of Lions Bay via the post office here, I'm not sure. But more or less in a nutshell, that's, I mean, whether it bears further investigation, I don't know. I don't know what the benefits are. I did a little bit of quick reading on it, but I didn't get too far, and it seems interesting, but yeah, that's about as far as I can take it.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it was applicable to us, so I kind of let it go.
Yeah, we're not, not too far from bricks and mortar.
Right.
Or online.
Okay. G2 from our MP, environmental funding programs. Hey, listen, there's 8 funding programs and 5 that he thought might do with some of us in his riding. I don't know. Interesting, I suppose. I don't know what we should do with it other than just receive it.
Received.
Thank you. And page 3, City of Vernon. Modernizing Emergency Management Act, they've got it. The City of Vernon is writing, and to me the issue was that it seems to me, if I can editorialize on it, is they figure that a lot of stuff is being downloaded from the provincial government, and one key point I noticed here, while much of the work is being undertaken for priority risks in our communities, there is no dedicated staff for this, and funding comes from very tight municipal budgets over time. I thought, aha, I think we can identify with that. And the other key on the second to last paragraph, the province's desire to see building back faster and better is admirable, but a lofty goal and from the perspective of local authorities. And jumping down a couple of sentences, significant provincial support is required to realize this objective, and I think we can concur with them. So we just receive. Thank you. And and we've got here G4 is Spread of Georgia House on Glass Sponge and Reef Conservation. I think it's an interesting read. I think it's great that all this stuff is going on. I applaud them for their efforts on conservation. But just receive, it's a good reading. A lot of page turning. There we are. That takes us to councils. Whoops, hang on, I jumped too far. Page 11. Oh, here we are. The one from councils essentially is to notify us all of the 3 meetings we're gonna have this year instead of 2. It's just for our benefit to fill in our calendars, if you want or what. So we received that one. Over to the next one, Sunshine Coast Barrel Alliance request. This one took me a while to read, because I probably need new glasses, and it's pretty small. But I think the gist of it is they're advocating that conservation officers limit the shooting of bears and find some other means of control. And I tend to agree with them, but
Can I make a suggestion on this one?
yeah.
I mean, given that we are the very smart community and very proud of it, I guess, and what signage and stuff we say, there is an ask. Says if you're amenable to adding your name to a letter, you can simply write to me at, and I'll relay your responses. When I first read it, was people get to do that personally, or is it appropriate we do it as the Village of Lions Bay, informing them that we're a very smart community and we support along their efforts, or something along those lines? I think we really, as a village, if I go back to, we haven't shown bear in years, it was a bit of a conscious effort to educate people to get there. So, something I think we should.
Well, we just contact the Bear Smart group in the village and maybe they will give a more informed response.
I'm just wondering how this came to us.
I'm not sure.
No idea. It's not addressed to any of us.
Just not quite sure.
With a small print of it, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. But perhaps it is something that should be referred to the Bear Smart, Lions Bay Bear Smart Committee or group, if they want to respond, or
Speak on my behalf, in other words.
well,
I could send it to Norma
mhm.
and ask her if she'd want to respond.
If that's
That's fine. Okay,
council's desires.
let's make a note that that's an action item for next time. Thank you. Thank you for your offer, Mr. Jennifer.
Okay, moving down to resident correspondence, R1, in regard to the hydro outages. I see it's already been replied by the mayor, so no further action is necessary. And then we've got a second one regarding the hydro issues, R2 on page 19 of these.
I've written to Mr. Henshaw, he and I haven't connected, but I will be writing to the Hydro, and I'll be using his letter as one of the pieces, along with another piece of correspondence from another resident.
Okay, so that's in progress.
So that'll be part of the action item for next time.
And down to R3, cell tower final comments from Ruth Simons. Just wrapping up her comments, waiting for the we call it the output from the
Consultation process?
thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. So I guess we just received this. And so we pulled R4.
Yep.
R4 is gone.
Well, it's
It's deferred.
it's referred to the February 18th correspondence list of the council agenda to be drafted.
Right.
Sorry, I misunderstood what you said earlier. It was not going to be called and put on the agenda of the next meeting? Or?
Well, it'll be in the correspondence.
Yeah, there's no really, you know, like, there's no procedure bylaw process to put it as an item on our agenda, other than, you know, if she wanted to, if the applicant wanted to make a delegation request and institute it that way, but, you know, council has her points that she has provided. I don't see that it really makes any difference. The information, had this gone forward tonight, you know, the information that was previously provided was on hand and available, and I would suggest that that will be the case on February 18th as well. And the process by which council can decide what to do with this has been advised by myself in terms of procedure and what's needed in order to move forward with a reconsideration of a council decision. I think that council needs to be cautious and to do this in a way that is in accordance with our procedure bylaw and in the manner in which council decisions can be revisited, and that is pursuant to section 35 of the procedure bylaw regarding reconsiderations. You know, Mr. Kennedy's point as to, you know, then he'll come back and appeal, or, you know, appeal the appeal, and, you know, we can't have people attempting to overturn council decisions, and, you know, once it's been made, it's done, unless council decides that for whatever reason they want to revisit that in accordance with the procedures that are available to them. But I think that those procedures ought to be followed so that in other circumstances you're not in a position of having to justify doing something different in one set of circumstances versus another. You need to follow the same process every time, and you need to follow a process that accords with the procedure bylaw. So that would be my advice when it comes back on the 18th. I'm sorry I won't be here.
Well, shame on you.
So, had there been more members present this evening, Councillor Wayne earlier suggested that it should come out of correspondence, and he was suggesting it should come into the agenda. We weren't able to do that. So
I would have spoken against doing that for the reasons I just stated. It's one thing to say that you're going to deal with an item that is already somewhere within the agenda, you're going to move it forward. It's an item of correspondence because the people were here. You don't want them to have to sit through the whole meeting to hear their matter. Move it forward, that's fine. But you can't just create items on the agenda willy-nilly with no, you know, there is no appeal, items for appeal, item number 5 on the agenda. It doesn't exist. It needs to be carefully dealt with in accordance with the bylaw.
So then,
Effectively, there's a way to appeal or ask council to reconsider, but that's really what it is. It's not an appeal, it's a request that council reconsider a decision they have made.
and then you're suggesting that would have happened when we got to the correspondence.
Or Mayor McLaughlin could have, I thought he
Accelerated
was
it.
going to move it forward to be heard right after public participation. That's what I anticipated. Instead, his motion was to defer it to the next meeting, when there'll be more council members in attendance, I presume. But yeah, had we dealt with it tonight, it would have been by moving this item forward to be heard right after the public
Let's wait for
participation.
the, okay.
And that's what I suggest happens next meeting.
And we already have articulated guidance on procedure. So you know where that'll go. Okay. Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
last one.
Please.
We have Mr. Walker is wanting us to do something about the train whistles, and I think we've finished the discussion on that.
We finished that talk.
Yeah, so-
Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw, he's been
Yes.
responded to.
Oh,
Thank you, Councillor Bain, for your first time at bat. I hope the next 2.5 months go so smoothly. Thank you. Which brings us to the new business, of which there is none I am aware of, and that leaves public questions and comments, of which there is one public out there.
The only thing I would bring up is that, you know where the water catchment is when it's just been formed a path along here? I've tripped on it almost 2 or 3 times, like, cause it goes up
I mean,
and it's not, the light isn't very visible.
Painted or,
Or maybe paint a rim or something.
yeah, I tripped on that same lip
Yeah,
myself.
I've done it 3 times now,
Yeah.
so.
So we're on
I
the,
kind of like those up because it stops my wheel. It's like, okay, don't go any further.
okay, well, Peter will slowly get rid of the paint, but in the meantime, put it on, please. Thank you.
Unfortunately, it'll have to wait till the dry weather.
Yeah, I understand.
As well, I think the intention is to provide some painted lines so that people don't pull their vehicles right up in front of the staircase, so you can't even get by one way or the other, as somebody did today.
Or like I usually
I
do.
made it fun, you can make it fun.
Nevertheless,
Yeah, road
I think
spikes are,
that,
Yeah.
that space is actually going to be
Hatched.
hatched for, well, it'll be for, no, for
Wheelchair.
wheelchair accessible.
which is what it should
It'll
be.
also be a small hatch.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
pedestrians.
for pedestrian.
All right,
pathway, yeah.
okay, well, there goes my preferred parking spot. All right, thank you all, and to the gallery at large, which brings us to the closed portion of the meeting, and the proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public, who will be absent in a minute, thank you, are the ICIP grant resolution, the Kelvingrove wastewater treatment plant award, and an item in labor relations. So the council considers disclosure of information related to the acquisition of improvements could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, and I think we can all read the next paragraph, with sections 91, C, E, J, and N, and anything more, John?
Nope.
Nope. Council does not anticipate reconvening the open meeting for any purpose other than to adjourn the meeting generally and report out if applicable. Is kind of a motion to go into in camera as stated. Thank you. Seconder. Yes, all in favor, good, thank you. And we will be closed.
Okay.
Hello, it's 10:05 and we were out of the closed section and back into the regular council meeting at 10:05. And the item that we'll report out is that council has approved a resolution that staff submitted application for grant funding for the Bayview Drainage and Water Improvement Project through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Green Infrastructure Environment Quality Program, and that the municipality's share of the funding will come from the Municipal Finance Authority borrowing and grants. Council has also asked staff to provide a description of the project and benefits in due course. And that concludes the reporting out, and now we will go back to the outstanding item, which is item 8.6, Kelvingrove Wastewater Treatment Plant Replacement Award. And that piece will be steered by the CAO for a second, based on the on-table item that we have previously.
So, after having discussed the attachment in closed meeting, the attachment being the EHD award recommendation letter with details with respect to the 2 bids that were received, There's recommendation from staff that council award the Kelvingrove wastewater treatment plant RBC design build RFP 1903 to Industrial Construction Corporation in the amount of $1,018,876.65 plus taxes, and that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute contract documents in accordance with the scope of work required.
I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a seconder? Any discussion on this? Call a motion. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the meeting, and can I have a motion close? Close. Thank you. We're done.